Hi there, this is Dill McGrath. This is my podcast, and I'll be talking about suicide and why people believe that this is an option that they can take. Actually, it's kind of funny. Today's a perfect day to be doing this kind of podcast. It's raining really hard. It's nice and gray in the sky. It's just really depressing weather. Now, before I actually dive into this podcast, I just want to talk a small bit about the kinds of things that I'll be doing, and therefore some people may find it very uncomfortable, or they may think I'm too biased on a bunch of things. Now, yes, I'm not gonna say that I'm not biased and that I'm going to be that I will completely not have my own opinion when I'm making this podcast. I'm just stating now beforehand that I do have my opinion, and it's definitely going in here. On the other side, this podcast is about suicide, about people killing themselves. A lot of people, or some people, will find this very uncomfortable. If you do not feel that you would like to hear this podcast, then please don't listen to it, okay? Well, if you stay, then I hope you enjoy. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is why this topic is so important. Suicide. Suicide is very important to talk about because it's become more and more prominent in our society than it has in the past. And it affects a lot of people. Not just the people that kill themselves, but also the family and friends, and even people that associate with the person who killed themselves are going to be affected by this. Now, what is suicide? Well, from from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention of the United States of America, they define suicide as death caused by self-directed injurious behavior with an intent to die as a result of the behavior. Now, this is just a fancy way of saying people are going, or no, sorry. This is just a fancy way of saying people are going out of their way to cause harm to themselves in order to make themselves, or in order to kill themselves because of something that they've experienced recently, or just, well, there's a lot of factors that go into suicide. A suicide attempt by the same place is defined as a non-fatal, self-directed, potentially injurious behavior with an intent to die as a result of the behavior, might not result in an injury. And that's also something that we'll be talking about a little bit later. Now, what can make, or how can suicide come about? How can somebody become suicidal? Well, there's a lot of things that go into that, and they sometimes are not always clear. Now, some of the problems that may come up is mental illnesses, so anxiety, bipolar disorder, depression, schizophrenia. Those are just a couple examples of mental illnesses. They could have They could have traumatic experiences, and that could be PTSD, or just physical abuse, sexual abuse, or just in general more. Bullying is also a really prominent factor in people having suicidal thoughts. Personality disorders, drug addiction, eating disorders, unemployment, social isolation, or just loneliness. And I'm going to be talking a lot more about this as I have a lot of experience with that. Relationship problems, genetics, family history, psychological desire or just psychological desire, terminal illness that people are going to die from, chronic pain, financial problems, or prescription drugs. Those are just a couple of many. Now, these are things that everybody will experience at some point in their life. But for some people, it gets taken a little bit too far, or the person themselves have not had to handle this at all during their life. And when they get put up against this, they crumble. Now, this is important to note. People believe when they have no choice out that they will go to suicide, to killing themselves, to get out of a situation, because they believe that there's no other option that they have in doing that. Or for some of the options or factors that I talked about just a second ago, they don't really have a will to live on. Now, I'm going to talk about my experience a lot. For me, my cause for suicidal thoughts was loneliness. And I have not found a lot of people that have been extremely lonely, although I do know that there are a lot of people who just, they don't speak up, that have been lonely, that have come close to what I went through. But let's go on a little bit of a history lesson of my past. I have been a very lonely child since I was young. Right now I'm 20 years old. I'll be 21 soon. And for, 17 to 18 of those years, I had a mindset of a loner, of being alone, of just staying to myself and not going out of my way to talk with other people. I believe that talking with other people was just a waste of my time, because it took up a lot of time to actually convey my thoughts into words, get them out of my mouth, and direct it at other people. And therefore, I wouldn't talk to other people unless it was to answer a question in class, or just if I was working on a project and I needed to talk with my partners. Besides that, I never really interacted with the rest of my graduation class. And for me, one of the main things was reading. Yeah, reading books. Not as prominent now, but reading books was something that I immersed myself in at a very young age. And all throughout middle school and high school, I read nonstop. Actually, at some point, this is kind of funny to think about it now. I got in trouble with one of my teachers. I think it was in, seventh grade. I think her name was Miss Parker. But I got in trouble in her reading class because I was reading in that class, which I never heard anybody get in trouble because they were reading in reading class. But yeah, all throughout my middle school and younger years, I was alone and I just read nonstop. And then in high school, I eventually ran out of books to read that I wanted to read. And I looked up for the first time and started to realize my situation, how I was alone. Now, not a lot of people have actually been able to experience this feeling of being alone. But I can tell you it's not a nice one. It feels just like a giant looming beast behind you, lurking there. And you know you can't do a single thing when you have work or when you need to get a project done. You know you can't go out of your way and ask your friend for help, because who's there? No one. There's no one there to help you, so you do everything by yourself. I'm sorry, this is a very touching topic even for me. Now, yeah, loneliness, not a lot of people have experienced it. And this can lead to a lot of misunderstandings. But I had my family, and I was content with that. Now, I realized, like I said before, that I was alone, that I had no one to really be by my side as my best friend or friend. I didn't go to any parties. I never went over to a friend's house. I never had a friend over. I never had a sleepover. I never went to the ball game, to the football match, to cheer on the team. Because who would I go with? Yeah. Now, even that I realized that I was alone, I couldn't really do a lot to change my situation, because this was in high school and everyone had already found their cliques, their little groups, and that was set in stone, even especially for a small high school like mine. And so I didn't try and do that. I just tried to think about myself and think about my life, because I had a lot of time on my hands, because I didn't really go out and do anything. I didn't have a club. And when I started to really think, that's when I started to get suicidal thoughts. And I look back on it now and I realize that I may have had depression. I didn't realize it at the moment because I never had experienced it or seen it in others. But I'm pretty sure I had depression, as well as being lonely. And that's what caused my suicidal thoughts. Now, another thing that why I kept on thinking about killing myself. I also, because I kept on reading or watching cartoons, animations, reading comic books, I didn't have anything that I really wanted to do. I didn't have a dream that I wanted to fulfill. And so when I started to think, I realized that I had done nothing, and I had achieved nothing. So why should I even still be alive? Why should I even still exist if I have nothing that I've done in the past, and I have nothing that I want to achieve in the future? Now again, this is a very disturbing and uncomfortable topic, but I encourage you to listen to the end of this podcast if you stuck with me this far. Now, sorry. So, I couldn't really do anything in high school to change my situation and or get better. In college, as I am right now, I did get a lot better because my college is a lot bigger than high school. I've changed my mindset and I went around to my classes, and I've started to slowly make friends, although it's still really difficult with me not trying that hard to interact and not come out as weird for most of my life. So trying to do that now is a little bit tough. But how, not, and this is, I keep on laughing whenever I think about this. How did I get over my suicidal thoughts? It wasn't a quick thing that happened with a snap of my fingers like that. It was something that gradually over time just kept on happening, kept on moving forward, and eventually it was just natural to want to live, to not want to be in that mindset. Now, some of the things that did stop me was the fact that if I did kill myself, I would affect my family emotionally and mentally, and I could not bear to have them go through that, despite how horrible I had felt. But what really stopped me from going over the line was, in fact, books. So the thing that made me get into that position of loneliness, of thinking about killing myself, was the thing that also saved me. As well as books, comic books, cartoons, animations, manga, which is just Japanese way of saying comic book. They're small books, black and white. Encourage you to go out and read some. You might like it. But it was because I read these and watched them day after day, week after week, month after month, that they changed me, because the things that I read were fantasy related. So they weren't real stories, but they had a lot of fantasy elements. Magic was one of them, mythical beasts, gods, that kind of thing. And even for the cartoons, well, really the animations, the animations and the manga, they had a lot of hero-like elements, where the main character, no matter what, as long as he kept on not giving up, despite if he was powerless or out of strength or in a very disadvantaged position for a fight, as long as he never gave up, he would win, and he'd continue on living. Now, when I think about this, it seems really silly to think about killing myself when I'm reading these books about heroes, about simple people not giving up and pulling through, winning in the end, getting the girl, etc. And slowly my mindset turned from being worthless and not having any kind of dream to, yeah, I'm worthless and I'm at the bottom of the barrel, but I'm at the bottom of the barrel. There's no other way to go but up. I can only go up from where I am right now. And even now, I don't have a dream that I want to achieve. I'm still so unsure about what kind of career I want to go into. But as long as I don't give up, I'll still come through. And actually, right now I'm doing really, really well. I just signed on with a major for DEMA, Digital Interactive Media Arts. I have 2 more years, probably another year, so 3 years, sorry about that, of college, and I'll graduate, and life's looking good. One of my favorite manga to read was called Berserk, and it's a story. Well, I'm not gonna spoil it for anybody, but the reason why I bring it up is because I made a promise with myself, and this promise was that I would not get into that mindset that I was before. I will not think about killing myself. And to prove that I won't do this again, I'm going to get a tattoo of one of the symbols from that book. And I don't know where I'm going to put it on my body, but when I get into that kind of mind frame where I start to question my existence and whether it should continue to be alive, I'll look at that mark and I'll remember that story, how he never gave up, how he continued moving on despite his horrible conditions. And I won't be in that mind frame anymore. But yeah, enough talking about me. We're almost at the end of this podcast. Now, I want to talk a little bit about how to prevent yourself from going down a similar path, or to get help if you're thinking about suicide. And now there's three things that I can think of off the top of my head that would really help. And they are social support, distractions, and just professional help. Now, social support is just going to be family, friends, just people that can sit down and listen to you. Because when I was younger, when I was alone, I never talked to my family about my situation and what I was thinking. Because I was scared. I didn't want to tell them about it. I didn't want them to be burdened by it. But that is one of the worst things that you can do. Because if you don't talk to anybody, and I do mean anybody, about this, about these thoughts that you're thinking, they will start to fester and get worse. And eventually, something will happen and you'll just snap, and then you'll be gone forever. Now, besides calling family or friends and getting them to listen to you or just letting you vent, you can call 911. There's also online forums that you can talk with, and there's even a suicide hotline. Actually, when I was researching a little bit for this topic, I typed in suicide, and one of the first things that came up was the suicide hotline. That if you ever feel like you're in this mindset that you're going to kill yourself, these people, or this line was created so that you can talk it out with professionals that understand you and know how you feel. Another thing you can do is just create a life contract, which is very similar, very, very similar to what I was talking about with my idea of getting that tattoo. And it's just a contract that you write up and you sign. You have like family, friends, and maybe your psychologist look at it, and you sign it, and it's just a promise saying that you won't kill yourself. And to be honest, even that it's a small piece of paper that anybody can do, it does work. So if nothing else is working, give this a try. Now, one of the things that did help me a lot was distractions. Exercise is one of the good ones. Reading, so like uplifting books or articles, like I did. I read a lot, and it definitely did help me. TV's a good one. Journal, so keeping an individual journal, writing down your feelings, because that is another way of talking about what you're feeling, to get it all out in a way. Watching movies, just going out for fresh air, food, sex, art. There's a lot of things that you can distract yourself with, even just cleaning your room, because I know for me, I have a lot to do to clean my room this summer. I'm not gonna like it. It's gonna be terrible, but it's gotta be done. Okay, so for professional help, there's a couple options that you can do, and this one I am going to list off. We got psychotherapists, which are there to, again, help you figure things out. Psychologist, psychiatrist, I'm not going to say that again. But those are the professional helps that you can get. And now I didn't go and get that kind of help because I didn't think I needed it, even that I was thinking about killing myself. But for some people, they really can't get out of it without professional help. So I do recommend that if you still, that you should probably get professional help, especially if you have the money to spare. So, sorry. Now, the main thing that I want people to take away from this is that this is all dependent on yourself. And what I mean by that is you can, and this is a really great quote that I keep on remembering, you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make him drink. And connecting it with our talk about suicide, you can go all the way to you can go to every single professional in your city, in your state, in America, or wherever you live. But in the end, if you do not want to be helped, if you do not think there is a problem, like I did, then there is nothing that anybody can do to help you until you yourself want that help. And again, that's how I experienced it. I didn't think there was any problems until I eventually ran out of books to read, and I finally looked up and I realized my situation. And yeah, I was scared to get professional help, and I didn't, because I'm very shy, which is also a contributor to me being lonely. But I knew that I also could not continue to be in that mind frame, otherwise I would go through with it. And so life is temporary, but death is permanent. There is always going to be hope for your future, no matter what. This little bump in the road for you, further down the line, you're going to look at it and say, oh, I remember that time where I was so emo. Yeah, hashtag emo. But this will make you stronger in the end. And even that you don't see it now, you can make it. You can live. And I do believe that no one should have to go through the pain of considering their life is next to nothing of worth. And that is really why people do think about killing themselves. They just feel trapped and are just unable to cope with the particular situation that they're in. And this can lead to people just considering killing themselves. And yes, people do go through pain, and there's a lot of different kinds of pain and different degrees. But it's also important to understand that pain is going to be a part of your life. There is no avoiding pain. The things that you can do is lessen how much pain you have, or reduce the amount of pain that you're going to experience, and just increase how you can cope with those. And that's really the best advice I can give you. You're going to feel sad. You're going to feel angry. You're going to feel a lot of things. But a lot of people are going to experience those too. So don't kill yourself. Live. If not for yourself, for your family, your friends, the future. You lived to how old you are right now. Why can't you just continue going forward to the finish line? And that is the end of my podcast. I thank you all for staying with me, even that this is going to be really difficult to edit, and even that there's a lot of pauses and such for this second podcast that I've done. But I thank you all for staying with me, if you are still there. And I hope that I've helped some people not go down the same path that I did, and to hopefully go on to and continue on the right path before they start thinking that they are worthless, that they have no meaning to exist in this world.